Oh, lads. Off stream chat, I was looking at all the cards for like Sultai Geist, and I got confused because there's so many choices. This guy definitely sucks. I just want him to be good so much. This guy sucks. This one's kind of interesting one for a Sultai Geist, by the way. This thing is a friggin' house, man. 3 mana, 2/3. Enter the battlefield or attacks, exile a card. So you're getting similar triggers to the Trespasser. You're getting similar triggers to the White Sentinel. You get to see the top of your deck, which is relevant, and once each turn you may cast a spell from the top of your library if it shares a card type with card exiled with Illuminator, and obviously you're going to exile creatures most of the time, or lands. Well, you can't exile lands actually. Double blue? Double blue I don't think will be too hard when you've got all these. You need 18 blue sources to cast this, right? And it's on the turn that all of your slow lands are activated. You're already playing 14. Well, I guess you don't play 14 blue sources. You're already playing 13 blue sources at least, so it shouldn't be too hard. But yeah, the Butler seems great. 2 mana, 1 to mill 3. When it dies, you get some Geist triggers and you get a creature back to your hand. You fill your graveyard for Sprout, you get a Geist trigger, you fill your graveyard for Aegon, you fill your graveyard for your like every turn trigger guys like Illuminator and Trespasser. Fill your graveyard for your 1 mana 3/3s. The 1-drops in this deck are just like better than every other deck. So there's no way that this deck is bad, but it is incredibly difficult to build. Because it's one of those where there's so many different moving pieces, right? You just have been able to build in this deck without playing it is like essentially impossible. It doesn't really matter what cards you're playing, right? You're just trying to hit a certain threshold of each effect, and you don't really know what that number is without getting to play the deck. Like, you have your cards which mill. You have your cards which eat the graveyard. You have your cards, your removals and counters. You have your lands, right? Like you don't. It's not really possible to know how many cards go in. Which cards go into each pile is kind of irrelevant, really. It's all about the number of cards in each pile, and it's hard to know that without playing. But so in the mill pile, you have Sprout is like a no-brainer. It's a 1 mana card. It mills, and it's somewhat of a payoff for milling in itself. It's like completely insane. The Aegon is great as well because Aegon is similar to Sprout in the one side of the artifact mills, and the creature is like another overstated creature like the Sprout that gets payoff for having milled. The Trespasser and the Illuminator, those are the tough ones because those are the biggest payoffs for having milled, but I don't know how many of those do you want. Like, I've got 5 here. Honestly, Trespasser plus Illuminator could be anywhere from 4 copies to the full 8, and I have no idea. Old Rutstein. I don't know about this guy. He, similar to Aegon and Sprout, he's kind of a mill and a payoff card built into itself. He's not, to me, he's nowhere near as much of a mill and payoff card combo, 1-card combo, as the Sprout and the Aegon are. So I think he'll either be 0 or 1 copy. 3 mana instead of 1 is a lot different. Yeah, like your other mill cards cost 1, or like Witherbloom Command costs 2, but it's doing something else, right? Like you might get to do a bit of drain, you might get to remove a ranger class, a paladin class, you might get to kill a creature. Witherbloom Command also gets even better in the new set because it now kills that one. It was Witherbloom Command is great against mono white. It was okay against mono green, and it was
CROKEYZ.
I mean, kind of bad really against Izzet, but now it's actually pretty good against mono green, as well as being insane against mono white because it also kills It now kills Thalia and the new green 1-drop as well. And both of those cards are just like certainties to be played. So like it's got 2 new high priority targets for the creature removal part, and if you get to remove a creature with this and mill and make a land drop, I mean, it's just like absolutely insane, isn't it? Really the only time that Witherbloom Command is bad is when you're, and it's not even that bad, but the only time it's medium is when you're casting it against Izzet just as a mill, a land fetch, and a drain. So Witherbloom Command gets even better. So I'm not convinced by Old Rutstein or Grolnok. Basically what I'm trying to say is, apart from Undead Butler and Cemetery Illuminator, the new cards are kind of shit for this deck, really. I thought there would be more good cards. Okay, Cobbled Lancer is super good too. This thing just doesn't get an activation when it enters the battlefield, right? And it's just another grind card, much like Rutstein, another grind card in a deck that doesn't need any help grinding, man. Even the current version of this deck without the Lancers already outgrinds every deck except the really heavy snow decks, right? You're already beating white and green in the late game, and you've already got enough speed to beat Izzet. The way these Geist decks lose at the moment are to the Clarion Spirit mono white deck. Sometimes it can lose to the normal mono white deck, but not really. And the snow decks, huh? These new cards don't massively help with that. The Butler, I think, is great. The Lancer is great. And you're gonna most likely want some number of Illuminators, but I don't think you want the Rutstein or the Grolnok. And I think once you go to Sultai as well from Jund in current standard, I don't think you want that ooze that grows off of lands being milled either. I think you just want to fill your 3-drop slot with the Trespasser and the Illuminators, right? No, Slogak, I don't think you want him, man. He grows too slowly in practice. Hermit would be fine, yeah. Hermit would be good, probably. But it's just a case of how many like cards of each type. Because once you've got 4 copies of these 3 1-drops, and probably like 3 or even 4 Undead Butlers, got your commands, you need your removal spells, you need your counter spells, you need your like Aegons, Trespassers, Illuminators. There's just no space in the deck, man. Insane. But I do think this deck should be very good. There's no reason why it shouldn't be very good, right? Like your creatures are bigger than Mono Green's creatures, which is just like an amazing place to be. And you can kill Izzet fast enough. So this will for sure be one of the first decks that we play. I took a look at Mono Black Zombies as well, which honestly seems like really solid to me. Not sure it is fast enough for Izzet. But I don't know why you're saying not sure it's fast enough for Izzet. It's fast enough for Izzet already, even without the new cards, so... I mean, I've played like 50 matches of the deck. It is fast enough to beat Izzet. We have data to back that up. Izzet's its best matchup. It absolutely destroys Izzet. Both versions. The Sultai deck? I'm talking about the Sultai deck. I don't know, like... Mono Black seems whatever to me. I don't know. Like, too many of your creatures are just like bad, you know? Sorin's okay, I mean Ebondeath's okay. These are fine if your opponent's removing your stuff. Your 2-mana creatures are just awful. And honestly your 1-mana creatures are not great either. Champion's okay, the gas is kind of shitty. But, I mean, the deck is fine, isn't it? It's a mono-coloured aggro deck. You get to play Hive, you get to play Haven. Your removal spells are fine, your creature spells are okay, but not great. But to be honest, Mono Black's kind of boring, so whatever. Any other possible new decks? I guess you've always got to take a look at Mono Red, right? So I actually have no idea what cards are good in Mono Red. Okay. 25 Mountains. 4 Gold Span. 4 Moonveil Regent. 4 Dragon's Fire. So these cards are all good. I think you probably play 0 of this. sadly. Do you play 0, 1, or 2 of this loner? Main. You're definitely playing some of these sideboard, because it's just like absolutely gas against mono white and mono green, to be honest. Maybe you're playing some main though, because it's not terrible against Izzet either, right? It has pseudo haste against them because they have to remove it, and when they do, you're dealing its power to them. So it's as if you get an attack off. To be honest, this effect is actually better than haste against Izzet, really, because you're essentially guaranteed an attack. So it seems like it's actually pretty good against all of them. But I think you go like one main, or maybe 2 main and 3 regent. Going down a region is kind of scuffed for your Dragon's Fires though. Very interesting, chat. Let's go 1. Ill-tempered loner. Alright, let's work our way backwards here. Gambit, I don't think you want. It seems terrible. Arnie's whatever. Birdgaze whatever. Brutal Cathar, I would really like to play in my mono red deck. Sadly, we cannot. Chandra. Chandra +1, turn 4 gold span. Maybe Chandra has to be played just for that. Getting gold span dragons down 1 turn earlier than usual is a way to win games of Magic with Dragonfire up. I mean, it's kind of Disneyland having all 3 of those as well as your 4 lands, but not that Disneyland really. So, I mean, there's no way that you play 0 Chandra. The question is, how many Chandras do you play? And how many of them are in the main, and how many of them are in the side? 2 main, 1 board. 3 main, 2 main. She's kind of awful against... So,
Jeez.
Every decision that we're making on these cards is how good are they against mono white, mono green, and Izzet. There's 3 decks that our cards have to be good against. If they're good against 0, they don't go in the deck. If they're good against 1, they go in the sideboard. If they're good against 2, they go in the main deck. I think she is terrible against mono white and mono green. And obviously she's great against Izzet. I cannot see a world where I'm playing against mono green or mono white and I cast Chandra and then they spend their 3 mana and my Chandra is not dead. So I think this is a lot of Chandra's sideboard and 0 main. Like 3 sideboard or something. Because she is absolute gas in the right matchup, but it's not, she's no Chandra 4, you know? Like if you can't play her in the creature matchups. You don't think it would be that bad against mono green? That they play Troll, we play Chandra, or Chandra is dead. It's awful against mono green. I'm gonna say 3 sideboard, man. 3 Chandra dressed to kill. Okay, Curse of Hospitality. This is another banger, by the way. I mean, mono red is gonna be like insane against Gandalf. Moonveil Regents, Chandras, Curse of Hospitalities. I'm not... It probably should be okay against mono white too. I'm just scared about the mono green matchup. But I like our chances against Izzet, other Gandalf decks, and I don't mind our chances against mono white so far. But, I mean, your deck can't be good against everything or else it gets banned, so if we've got 1 bad matchup, that's perfectly fine. You love the curse? I like the curse too. Attacking creatures have trample, which is very... This will help a lot against, like, Izzet and even, especially the snow decks, right? This will give you a lot of game against the snow decks. 1, they can't really remove enchantments, and 2, it makes their, like, gassed eye twitch pile just fucking, like, unplayable. So, we're definitely playing some of this. But again, it's sideboard only. If you come after sideboard against Izzet in snow pile with, like, 4 Regent, 3 Chandra, and 2 of this, I mean, GG, right? GG. We do need some main deck 3 mana cards, guys, or else we can't play our deck. Smile. Flame Skull as well, huh? Any 3 mana cards, wizards, that I can play in my main deck? Any 3 mana cards that I can play in my main deck, please? Is it really Stormseeker only? Because that is rough, man, if that's the case. So, Reckless Stormseeker, obvious 4 of, move on. 5 damage to creature or planeswalker. If it's a spirit, deal 2 damage to controller. You don't really need that in the sideboard, do you? Because you've you need 5 damage to kill green creatures, but you've already got Burning Hands. Do we need a 3-drop, man? Where's the second 3-drop? Hello? So does Chandra have to go main? Is Arnie acceptable? So Arnie is definitely an underrated card, but Arnie is a 3/3 haste for 3. Sometimes it's a 4/3 haste for 4. And sometimes it's even a 5/3 haste for 4. It's just like, it's not that good, is it? It's never amazing. Burgy? Don't know about Burgy. Well, chat. It is what it is. 2 Chandra dressed to kill. Main. A Braid. I mean, a Braid obviously goes in the deck. Bloodthirsty Adversary. So you're going to have, what, 4 Dragon's Fire, 4 Frostbite. Any other spells to cast off the adversary? Play with Fire. Play with Fire is pretty meh, is it not? I guess you're going to have to play, like, the 2 mana deal 4 thing. I find it hard to believe that mono red doesn't play 4 Bloodthirsty Adversary. Especially when you're having to go up to 25 lands because you're playing 4 gold spams. It gives you a bit of, like, early game and mid game power, right? I think the adversaries are an almost certainty to be 4 of. 4 Frostbite, and then 2, like, Thundering Rebuke, probably. So your removal is Frostbite, Dragon's Fire, Rebuke, and that's enough spells for adversary to buy back. Maybe even just 1 Rebuke, honestly. Maybe 1 Rebuke is enough alongside those other things. Burning Hands goes sideboard. Gatekeeper, easy 4 of. So your 2-drops here have, like, mid-game value too, which is nice. 2 mana, 2/1. First strike, when it enters the battlefield, exile a card from a graveyard. Whenever a player plays a land or casts a spell, if it shares a card type with the exiled card, deal 2 damage to that player. Seems good. The Tebolt's Trickery, man. Was there any, like, 0 mana artifacts or 0 mana spells in this set for Trickery Monka S? There's also this card, huh? Is this card good? Deals 2 damage to you, exile the top card of your library. You may play the card that turn, activate as a sorcery, and then you flip into a 4/3. 2 mana 3/1, draw a card, flip into a 4/3. And it's like a free flip as well. 2 mana light up the stage. It's very slow, man, the 2 mana light up the stage. Kind of cool with your Bloodthirsty Adversary, though, to light up the stage, right? Then once you've got 5 mana, you can recast that, and with 5 mana, you're going to be able to cast those 2 spells for sure. I don't know, guys. This thing seems pretty good to me. So the main problem with mono red is that your removal spells are terrible, right? So you're locked into playing Dragon's Fire, which is the only good one. So then you're locked into playing Regent and Goldspan because you need it to be able to deal 4. Once you're locked into playing these cards, then you're locked into 25 mountains. So there's not a ton of space after that. Maybe you do just cut the Chandras. Maybe the 4 Reckless Stormseekers is enough. Especially with these, like... Especially when your early game cards are actually... Like, a lot of them are, like, mana sinks in some ways. Very interesting. Yet another anti-Gandalf card shit against creature decks. Is this shit against creature decks? This is good against creature decks, is it not? Slowies. How is a 2-mana 4/3 slow? So there's going to be, what, 8 cards? Like, if you play it on curve and then flip it on turn 3, there's 8 cards in the deck that you can't cast, 52 that you can. I think it's good. What other 2-drops does red have? So you've got Cemetery, Gatekeeper, Bloodthirsty Adversary, and this. This thing has to be good, guys. It's like, seems impossible for it not to be good. Just being honest, in my opinion, this version of a mono red deck you're building is not gonna cut it, champ. I'm gonna need you to stop pretending like your opinions are informed, because it's kind of annoying, man. You have no fucking idea. What are you on about? Why are you pretending that you know a deck's not good enough, or is good enough? I'm wondering if you can maybe just play like 4 Rebukes and just cut the dragons and the dragon fires, because you're, especially if you're playing like Visionary and you can play the light up the stage and you can play the adversary, you can just play like 1s, 2s and 3s and you've got a lot of draw as well. I think you might want to play mono red without these 3 cards. Now that I've seen all the cards, I think it's possible. Because you have enough things to spend your mana on these mana curve points. Especially with the, because you can play the light up the stage stuff. That will make your adversaries better. Making adversary better seems like a good way to play mono red. You're gonna have to play. It would also make playing main deck Chandra better too, because your deck will be cheaper, you can protect Chandra better. So, yep. We're going 24 lands and we're cutting these cards. I mean, maybe you still play the Regent. I don't think you play the Gold Span. So you need to play, you will need to play 4 of these, I think. 4 Rebuke, 4 Frostbite. You definitely want 4 Voltaic Visionary. This Loner can go in the sideboard. 2 Ill-Tempered Loner. You probably do want some... I do think maybe you do play that light up the stage shit. What's it called? Imagine exiling a Frostbite against control, lol. Yeah, imagine that. Have you considered that if you don't exile the Frostbite against control, that you're gonna top deck it on the following turn and it's still the same problem? Impulse, Rebuke, Frostbite. Seems fine. Maybe you don't need the full 4 Rebukes. Alright, 1 mana cards, baby. 2 damage to creature, Planeswalker, exile. I'm sure you'll probably want some of those. The coolest thing about this deck is that you get to, all your cards are cheap, but you also, like, you're not playing like burn, you know, you're not running out of cards. Because a lot of your cards are mana sinks in the mid game that you can also play on curve too. You can mess around with the numbers, but I think those cards are good. You also can try the like Region Gold Span Dragon's Fire version too. I would suspect that this is probably better. Because this deck can has so many vampires in it that you can play the anti-vampire sweeper in the sideboard for mono green too and mono white, right? Because these two guys don't die. So either your only non-vampires don't die. Your creatures are all pretty good. You've got this 1 mana 2/1 with upside. You've got 1 mana 1/1 here that's smoothing your draws out. It's a good sack outlet for the pit fighter. It's a good, the blood token's like completely insane. Adversary is like, it's a bit sag on curve in some matchups, but good mid-game creature. Stormseeker is like broken as shit. This card I wouldn't be surprised is broken as shit. Gatekeeper is good for getting not having to win through creature damage only. Chandra's like kind of nutty. Your removal is like, it's not amazing, but it should be good enough. And then you probably won't play 4 copies of this, but maybe you will. Let's take a look at Jeskai Gandalf. 4 Smoldering Egg. 4... What's the white guy called? Faithbound Judge. 1 Stephen Hawking. What's he called? Hawking? Hawk? Jacob Hawking. There we go. I mean, this is just gas already, isn't it? Absolutely nuts. This is some giga jank. You are a giga moron if you think that. What exactly of these 3 cards do you think is bad? I'm excited to learn which one of the 3 it is that you think is bad. I think Expressive Iteration would be a good card in this deck. You know what? You probably play Liar too. What's that card called? Just sus about Jacob, to be honest. Don't worry about it, man. I'll teach you how to not be sus about Jacob. Google Jacob Hawken Inspector. Then read the card. And then come back and you won't be sus anymore. Liar, Disciple of the... Why only 1 Jacob? You maybe want to play more than 1, but you need to make sure you've got enough instants and sorceries for your egg, right? This is just this thing is an obvious 4 of. I mean, it is an absolutely Monka-esque creature package, this. Jesus Christ. I'm scared, guys. I'm scared of my opponent having these cards. You definitely need Epiphany. Do you? Epiphany is good with both the Judge and the Egg, to be honest. But and the Jacob. Go like at 3, I guess. Maybe 1 Liar's enough, man. That card's kind of scuffed. 3 Epiphanies, 1 Worlds. Nobody cares, man. What's the 3 mana draw 3 called? Inspired Idea. 1 of in literally every deck that plays Islands, by the way. Classic. Any Planeswalkers in a Jeskai Gandalf deck? Teferi untap Jacob, by the way. Teferi untap Jacob, huh? Okay, if you wanted to play Teferi, what artifacts can you play? Is there any 2 mana artifacts, or do you have to play shitty Celestis? Celestis is kind of trash, man. Isn't there there's one that does mana of any color and exiles a card, right? For 2? I think Teferi is too expensive, huh? If you play Teferi and you play the artifacts, you don't have enough spells left for your egg. 4 Iteration, 1 Inspired Idea, 2 Deluge. What's Wash Away? That's a counterspell, man. Foreboding Statue is better than Celestis. I don't know what that is, man. So what removal can you play? The removal in these colours is kinda awful, isn't it? Portable Hole? Well, you can't really play Portable Hole and stuff like that. Well, like you can, but you need some instant and sorcery removal for your egg. Is Faithbound really worth splashing double white on 3 for? I mean, Faithbound Judge might be the best card in the whole set. But you would cut red before you cut white. I'm not sure Jeskai's a thing, guys. Now that I'm looking at it, because the removal you want to play is like Casket and the new Casket, sorry, and Portable Hole, but you can't play that with Egg. And the problem is, if you can't play both the Egg and the Judge in the same deck, then it doesn't really matter what you go for. It doesn't matter if you go for like blue-white or Esper or is it? Cutting one of these 2 creatures just makes whatever deck you end up with like a horizontal move from what we currently have already, and that the control decks are unplayable, right? So you're not making any improvements to the deck either way. It's just the same. Like, Grixis doesn't help either. Grixis is shit too. So, it's kind of a problem. What about Bant? Is there any, like, green creature that you can play in a Gandalf deck? This deck doesn't deal with mono green. What the fuck are you talking about, man? We've got 4/4 lifelinkers. We've got Egg. We've not even added our removal spells yet. What lifelinker? Dude, there's only 4 creatures in the deck. I'm sure you can work it out, man. I have an innovative idea. Play Is It? That's what I think, right? I think blue-white is possible. Is It is possible. I mean, Esper is possible, Grixis is possible, but unless you can play both of these in the same deck, that's what I said, it's just a sideways step from what we already have. Like, Jacob will be a bit of an upgrade to these control decks, but it's not a massive upgrade. And I don't think you can play both of these in the same deck. That's why I'm wondering if Bant is good, but you'd need a replacement for Egg and Bant. Which would be what exactly? Is there one? What about Esper? What do you get from black? Well, you get Sorin and Vanish and Verse, but do you get any blockers, you know? Or are you just gonna get smarked until you're dead like all control decks? There's the 1-drop guy, yeah. Is he good? Witch? I think Witch is bad, man. Yeah, let's try Esper. Esper can't really draw cards though, which is pretty yikes. What's the defender eye wall? What's it called? Concealing curtains. I mean, the fact that it costs 1 is kind of sick. I wonder if you just play 4 Sorin, man. No cap. Isn't Sorin just a bad lolth? Dude, you're insane, man. What do you mean, is it just a bad lolth? It's nutty. Jacob card is garbage. Bruv, your mind is garbage. Which is very unfortunate. Tainted Adversary? Tainted Adversary might be better than this thing, but I don't know. I feel like this thing should be decent, right? I don't see any reason why this would not be good enough. I am interested in this card. Better Loth? I think Sorin's very good. The main question is Liar just awful? Like, really it is kind of bad, right? Liar. Especially in a deck with black, because you don't have to play Fade and Hope in a deck with black. So you don't, and if you don't have to play Fade and Hope, you don't want to play Fade and Hope, and if you're not playing Fade and Hope, the Liar can't actually protect herself. So basically you're not playing Liar until like turn 7 when you get to cast it with a Vanish and Verse, right? Or something. So she's actually kind of bad in this deck, I think. Path of Peril. The backside of Curtains. It's a 3/4 menace, and then you get to discard a card and they redraw. So I think this is really good. 3 mana, destroy 2 CMC or less. Well, I don't think we want to play board wipes that kill our own creatures, right? So we want to play like Meat Hook? Crippling Fear, maybe? So I think you play 4/4. Liar is like 0 or 1. Jacob is probably 1 or 2. Sorin is probably 2, 3, maybe even 4. Honestly. It could be a 4 Sorin deck. I think you want Syncopate, I think you want Wash Away. Grasp and Verse are fine. Maybe it's Verse and Bloodchief's Thirst. Then you just want to draw cards and take extra turns, right? And then that's the deck. Easy. Seems reasonable to me. I don't want to spend too much time on any particular deck. I'll refine these in the days to come. I just want to make sure I've got the right cards in each deck, right? And then we'll mess around with the numbers as we go. The Esper deck looks fine, the mono red deck looks fine. And the Sultai deck does not look fine, but I'm hoping we can get it to look fine eventually. Ecuador! Ecuador!